What's up, guys? My name's Sawyer Hartman, and today the question on everyone's mind is what is the best camera lens we can buy without breaking your bank account? So today I give you the best camera lens for under $500. Okay, so you have your first camera, you've been taking photos, but for some reason they don't really look the way you want them to. Let's break this down. You gotta know what you want in a photo before you actually take it. What I like in my photos is a blurry depth of field, nice framing, and just good colors. I prefer for my photos to actually look like they've been taken from a movie. We'll call this cinematic, we'll call it filmy, whatever you want to do. Now, as you guys know, I take my photography very, very seriously. Photography and film. Cameras are my life, and I spend most of my time around them. There's a moment as a photographer where you're gonna go from taking photos to taking photos. Now, if you don't know what I mean, it's probably because you haven't hit it yet. To me, this is when I started taking photos that actually look like the photos that I was liking on Instagram. It was a really big moment for me, and it kicked off a love of photography that literally has never left my body. Now, the big problem with photography is it's an extremely expensive hobby, as I'm sure all of you know. This is why I'm making this video for you today. I'm going to share with you the lens that changed my life forever when I was very early on starting out in photography, hoping it can do the exact same for you. Now, chances are when you bought your camera, if it came with a lens, it came with some kind of zoom lens or a lens that could zoom in and out depending on what you wanted to shoot. These are great lenses, and I will tell you why I do not use them. A zoom lens is able to capture a variety of different photos at different focal lengths. So for example, this zoom lens goes from 24mm all the way up to 70mm. There are two obvious drawbacks to me right away. Actually, there are three obvious drawbacks to me right away when I start thinking about zoom lenses. The first off is because there's so many more moving parts inside the lens, it's harder to get a very sharp image. Now, zoom lenses give a sharp image, but prime lenses, or lenses that only shoot one focal length, like a 24mm, or a 50mm. Because they don't have as many moving parts, a lot of times the images are a lot crisper. Issue number two with zoom lenses. Now, because this lens has to cover a variety of different focal lengths, the aperture is pretty high. Aperture is just another fancy word for f-stop. It's how much light comes into your camera. The lower the number, the faster the lens, the lower the light you can shoot in. So most lenses that probably came on your camera were an f4 or higher. Today I want to introduce you to the world of prime lenses, where you can get a lens as quick as 1.2 or 1.4. That means you can shoot with a lot less light, and it also gives you that really beautiful blurry background you've been searching for. Now, my third and last issue with zoom lenses is actually very simple. Because you're able to zoom in, and because you can sit in a chair and get different shots, you get lazy. When you have a prime lens, something that can't zoom in, you're forced to walk around and find the shot, and to me, that is part of the creative process. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to what I believe to be the best camera lens for under $500. Actually, way below $500. See, when you're looking between the $900 and $2,000 lens range, there's tons of options. But when you're looking to spend less than $500, it can often feel like you're not going to get a professional option. And that's completely untrue. This, my friends, is the Canon 50mm 1.4 prime lens. Now, this is actually the first lens I ever got that was not a zoom lens, and I can remember the first day I took photos on it as clear as day. But when it comes to finding a lens under $500 that can rival some of the $5,000 lenses I have in my cabinets, this is it. And here's why. My goal is not to just sell you this lens, but to make you understand why I enjoy it so much, because there might be another option out there you know about that I don't. But as of right now, I don't think anything beats this lens for $350. Now, literally the first thing that makes this lens just incredible is that 1.4 aperture. The background is so blurry, it's beautiful. You know the difference when you shoot an iPhone photo or you shoot an iPhone photo on portrait? That's the difference of using this lens against the standard zoom lens you probably have on your camera. Now, this lens having an aperture of 1.4 means you can shoot in low light, but it also means that blurry background and that bokeh of lights, the Brandon Wolfel, the lights that just sit out here on the lens. This is such an incredible option to be able to capture photos like that. I can't believe they haven't raised the price on it. And if you don't have any lens in your camera lineup that's lower than a 2.8, you need to drive yourself to Best Buy or a camera store or anywhere, or even click the Amazon link and buy this thing right now. If you're shooting photos at 2.8, wait until you see them at 1.4. Another really great quality that most lenses in this price range, even lenses in the $2,000 price ranges, really lack on is a fast focus ring. When you quick focus on your camera, how fast can it focus on the image? How sharp is it? And can it actually like keep up with movement? Well, getting focus is not a problem on the 51.4. It's literally every single time it's razor sharp. But what really surprised me is I put this on my 1DX and had my dog run towards me, and I put the focus on his face and held the shutter down. Now, I have some lenses that are in the thousands and thousands of dollar range that fail this test massively. To my surprise, the 51.4 actually kept focus as the dog got closer to me with perfect sharpness. The only two lenses I have that I think are sharper than this are my 100mm Canon macro, which is like $1,000 lens, and then actually my entire line of Canon cinema primes, which go for like 35 grand together. So to find one for $350. So this is my 50mm Canon cinema prime, and this is the 51.4. It is a lot smaller. It's got perfect autofocus, and color reproduction is on point. And you can see in these photos, even for a $350 lens, the color looks really great out of camera. And then when I add one of my one-click Lightroom presets, you can see that it actually like holds up. Now, if you're instantly thinking, so it's because you're shooting on a 1DX, blah, 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 it's because you have a nice camera. Here's another really great thing about this lens. Now, even if you're using this lens on a Canon T6i entry-level camera, which is a great camera, this lens is going to be closer to an 85 1.4, which is another incredible focal length. This lens will be able to transfer with you from camera to camera until it breaks down. And that's one of the downsides about this lens. Now, I want to give a huge disclaimer. This 50mm lens is not meant for everything. Do not try to vlog on this lens. Do not try to get telephoto shots of deers in the woods on this lens. When you start dealing in prime lenses, you'll start realizing that different focal lengths are meant for different types of photography. And the shots give the viewer a different emotional response. My two favorite focal lengths in the world are 35mm and 50mm, and they're very, very similar. I've said this before, but the 35mm is kind of my Instagram go-to. It's perfect for getting a person and a location in the same photo. So a girl standing with the Eiffel Tower in the back, or Angelique with a waterfall over her shoulder. 35mm is perfect for that. Now, when I think of a 50mm lens, I start thinking of photos of just people or one subject or thing in particular. Let's say you do make it to the Eiffel Tower, you just take 3 or 4 extra steps back, and this starts to look like a 35mm lens. And granted, the 35mm lens that I think compares to this is $900. So again, we're over double the budget. So now basically everything I've said about this lens in terms of photography can actually be applied to video. It's across the board a really great lens, which brings us to the final moments. This lens is actually super close to Canon's $2,000 50mm 1.2. The majority of the differences come into the build quality. It is a plastic lens. Now, while I've never had the glass or the mount break, I have now gone through 3 of these lenses, all for the exact same reason. I'm not quite sure why Canon hasn't fixed it yet, but this little lens ring here, the turny focus thing, after about 2 years of use, it becomes disconnected to the actual focus ring inside, so when you turn it, the focus doesn't change. And unfortunately, that goes for autofocus too. Now, you could pack this lens up, send it back to Canon, they'll fix it for you for free, but it's gone 6 weeks. With all that being said, there are YouTube tutorials of people taking these things apart, fixing it in like 15 minutes, putting it back together. I tried it once, I completely destroyed one. And if that's what you need to be able to do to be able to afford this piece of gear and make an investment and turn your dreams into a career, well then I think you should do it. But I'm dead serious. If you're out there and your photos still look the same and you want to step it up and you're looking for that cinematic blurry background, just try this Canon 50mm 1.4. There's also a Canon 50mm 1.8, also known as the Nifty 50. This dude right here, I have it in a box because I'm gonna do a video for you very soon on it. This lens is only $100, which is nuts, but in the big scheme of things, for the extra $250, I feel this is a much stronger lens. And please share this video with absolutely anyone you think could benefit from it, and leave comments down below of videos you'd like to see me do in the future. So guys, as always, stay inspired, stay motivated, and never stop creating. Peace.